They're going to talk about what you should do every single time you get paid. Let's hear what they've got to say, and then I'll give my thoughts as we go.
So are you in the camp that you shouldn't spend money on the small things, like the coffee? If you don't need it, you should make the coffee at home. Is that kind of...
I can't stand it when I see kids that are making 70 grand a year spending $28 for lunch. I mean, that's just stupid. It's just, think about that in the context of that being put into an index and making 8 to 10% a year for the next 50 years.
What's an index for someone that doesn't?
So, okay, I mean, you know, I even built an app for this purpose, just so I could, there's many apps out there, you don't have to use mine. Mine's called Beanstalks, but you just allocate 15% of your salary and it automatically puts it into two buckets, some stocks and some bonds. The stocks are ETFs, exchange traded funds that just track the S&P 500. Very simply. Mine's a little...
The S&P 500 is the top 500 stocks.
Yeah, and so it's just, you know, people that tell me, oh, I can beat the S&P, I can pick stocks. They're so full of crap. Not over the long period they can. So it's better, you might as well just own ETFs. I have a version of the S&P that I designed with other people that strips out all the crappy balance sheets, but that's just me. You can just buy the index that you want, you know, the ETF. And then you pay low fees, and then over time it appreciates. And then if you buy some treasury bills or fixed income, you get that. You should have less of those when you're young and more than when you're older. That's just diversification. But you know, the best test I do with my kids' friends too, go into a closet, go into your closet and look at how much you have you don't wear. Because you either bought it because you thought you were going to wear it and never wore it or wore it once, and you end up wearing 20% of your portfolio all of the time, and 80% you pissed away. I mean, that's really stupid. And so for a young person, a young woman or man, don't do that. Start putting, just buy the minimum stuff. And another thing I learned from my mother, this is interesting because I saw...
Before we hear what he's got to say about his mother, right? He's saying so much stuff which is real on so many different levels, right? And it's funny because he spoke about, look, a good test, go in your wardrobe and see how much of your stuff that you wear is real. Pretty much like he said, you're going to find that you wear a small amount or portion of your clothes repeatedly. And I know this because years ago when I got in much better shape, I used to be twice the man I am. I like to say I used to be a balloon, right? But I remember in that period in time, I got rid of a lot of clothes, and I was like, you know what? I need to just let go of clothes. I feel like I've got a lot of baggage. Let me get rid of some. And I remember I looked at my clothes, and I was obviously a bit apprehensive, but at the same time, I was watching some minimalist content at the time, right? People that just believe in having less. And I'm not a minimalist, but I agree with some of the concepts that they teach. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me get rid of some of these clothes. And I remember I just had a huge bag and there was loads of clothes on the bed that particular day. And I remember just saying to myself, it's like, I remember feeling a certain period. I remember feeling a certain way and then just be like, you know what? Let's just see what happens. One of the tricks some people give you, right, just to help you get over that fear, because you can get a bit anxious. But one of the ways you can avoid this is people will say, well, look, just pack up, don't throw the stuff away, just pack it up in boxes, right? And if you don't go back to it in like 90 days or 6 months, then it just shows that you weren't going to use it anyway, so throw it away. I got rid of a lot of clothes, donated a lot of clothes to charity. And then you know what I realized? Even out of the short amount of clothes I had left, I still only rotated through a select few. Because really, when you think about it, you probably never really noticed this, but we normally just wear the clothes, our favorite clothes, in like a short rotation. We're not going to wear it every single day necessarily, because obviously we need to wash it and all that kind of stuff. But we will find ourselves having a shorter rotation within the shorter amount of clothes that we have. And this is one of the reasons why some people just wear the same clothes every single day. Obviously not the same literal clothes, but they'll buy like 20 black t-shirts or 20 white t-shirts or whatever, something along those lines, and they'll just wear it every single day because people wear the same clothes regularly. That's just something that we do. So it's a mental block that we need to get over, a lot of people anyway, but getting rid of a lot of stuff, getting rid of a lot of the excess. The excess is where a lot of the struggling you may be facing right now is actually coming from. You know how they talk about trimming the fat? I promise you, if you trim loads of the fat away, you have a nice lean cut of meat which you can actually work with. That's going to be the best situation you can put yourself in. But let's listen to what else he has to say. And obviously one more thing before we hear the story about what he's going to say about his mum. Obviously people, like he said, making a certain amount of money and obviously spending loads on takeout and these exotic kind of things doesn't make a lot of sense, because again, it goes back to the whole point of excesses. Excesses will kill you guys.
What happened at her death? She, you know, would buy 2 Chanel jackets a year, really expensive Chanel jackets, handmade Chanel jackets. I do business with Chanel because of, you know, the legacy of my mother and the whole Coco Chanel thing in watches. I love those guys. And her theory was this will never get old. And it never did. A classic vintage Chanel jacket from the 50s that's well kept is worth a fortune today.
And I didn't say this, and I'll just say this now, right? If you simplify what he said in the first segment when we was listening to him, it really just comes down to wasting your money, the excess money, on nonsense, right? Or investing your money in something which provides a good return on a regular basis. Why? Because that's when you tap into compound interest and your thing continues to grow and grow and grow and grow like a snowball.
The classic, it still wears beautifully. They're so well made. So she wouldn't buy crap. She'd buy really good stuff, but just small amounts of it. And over the years, she'd built up this portfolio of amazing clothing. And when she died, the women in our family had a cat fight over her portfolio. Unbelievable.
Is that in part why you have so many watches? I've noticed you have a watch on either wrist right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty big in watches. I mean, but watches to me, every piece I have marks something in my life that was important. A deal, a child, graduation, you know, something, every piece. I've got a lot of watches.
How many have you got?
I don't even say anymore because of the insurance policy I have. I got a lot.
Do you invest in, you're talking about your mother's investing strategy, and one of the things you said is she invested in dividend stocks.
Yeah.
And before we talk here about the stocks, you would assume that just based on what he said about his mum and the type of clothing she was buying, those watches he has are probably ones which don't depreciate. He's not doing silly stuff to depreciate the value, to drive the value down. These are things which continue to hold the value. If you ever needed to sell them, if you wanted to, you could sell them and still make close to, if not more than what you paid for.
Yes.
What is a dividend stock, and should I be investing in dividend stocks?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a company, if it's profitable and it's operating and its business plan is working and it's growing market share, at some point says, I'm going to distribute some of the success of our profits to our shareholders. That's a dividend. And so they send that cash to you, and you can either redeploy it in other ways or live off it or whatever. Many tech stocks until recently did not pay dividends, but now the behemoth tech stocks do pay dividends because the demand of an aging population is I need to eat. And so I like to own the stock for growth, but I also want to get some of the profits. And so dividend-paying stocks used to be utilities, but not so today. Every sector has dividend-paying stocks, so I prefer to own dividend-paying stocks, div payers. And then I also own fixed income products. I also own crypto now, and I own alternative assets like gold and watches. My watch collection's actually done quite well, even though there's been a correction. There's volatility, but I have some watches that have, you know, I bought for $200,000 that are worth over $1 million today.
So he's not buying watches, guys, to stunt. Like most of the people you see online are doing, oh, look at my watch, blah, 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 blah. He's buying watches which will appreciate, will go up in value, like you just heard in that particular example. He's speaking so much about investing and so little about stunting and wasting the excess that you have because he wants to create multiple times generational wealth.
Crypto. So are you still bullish on crypto as an investment?
Yeah, I am actually, but people get crypto confused with its real potential. Let's talk about digital payment systems, because what's about to pass first, we're days away from this happening, is the Genius Act, which is actually the Stablecoin Act. It was just passed by the Senate 48 hours ago. It's going back to the House. I actually worked on that bill 2 years ago. So if that bill passes, it's really nothing to do with speculating on crypto. It's a new form of payment. So if I wanted to order a watch from Simon Britt, who's somebody I buy watches from, he's a master watchmaker. Right now I have to take US dollars. I've got to get through a know your client prerogative. I'm treated like a criminal by transferring $100,000 over, turn it into Swiss francs. It takes about a week. I get screwed for about 200 basis points in the whole thing. If he accepted USDC, which is actually a stable coin backed by the US dollar, just went public, very successful IPO. I was a shareholder in that company too. That's one of my best IPOs in the last 2 years. The transaction would happen in less than a second, and the fees would be a hundredth of what the costs are right now. So it's a digital payment system. The price there's no speculation on it. It's backed by the US dollar, treasury bills. So it's sort of a new form of digital payment. That's different than Bitcoin, which is a speculation.
And this is the thing, right? You don't have to be all in on Bitcoin or anything specifically. This is why I specifically said earlier on, right? When you spliced what he's talking about, is people that do things a certain way, they just spend and live lavishly on things which continue to depreciate, go down in value, and people who continue to invest in things which continue to pay them back and go up in value. It's about investing, taking the money that you have, investing in something which can continue to work even when you're asleep, even when you're in good health or bad health, regardless of the situation, whether you're working or not. You want assets out there which can continue to pay you regardless of what you're doing. This is the difference. So it's not necessarily about crypto or about investing in a particular stock or only dividend stocks or whatever it is. Become someone who invests in things which continue to pay you back and they can compound over time. That is the secret, the blueprint that you really need to take from what we're hearing in this video. Guys, don't forget to like it, don't forget to subscribe, and as always, don't forget to react righteously. God bless.